Fans of the Horus Heresy, nice Mechanicum tanks, and not necessarily following the instructions in the order that they are presented, thank you very much for joining me for a update video on my Triaros build. We might also call this interpreting Forge World instructions and then not necessarily doing what they say in that order. And the reason for this is, well, allow me to show you. I've been busy working and I just thought it would be a good time to show you something about how I approach the assembly that may well help you if you're building one. Now the Triaros, just to refamiliarise ourselves, is very simple. You've got some track units, you've got a lower hull, an upper hull and a bit at the back. And that's essentially it. In the instructions it suggests you do the track units first, then do the lower hull and then stick the upper hull on. Now me being me, of course, decided to do it completely differently. And I present Exhibit 1, the Triaros hull work in progress. What I've decided to do is I've decided to put the upper section on, the upper hull on, and stick it to the lower hull first, and then I'm going to attach the other parts. So I hear you asking why. Well, it's very simple. It's around getting all this detail lined up at the front. And it's quite tricky to get everything centered correctly and in line, and in particular these two pieces of piping, or perhaps these hemispherical braces that run down each side of the front hull. Those are the trickiest things to get lined up, and also I suppose the prow, where the prow intersects with the hull as well, that took a fair bit of fiddling to get that right. So what I've done is, rather than stick the track units on first, is I've stuck this in place to allow me to get that lined up perfectly. And it's very straightforward. Put some glue on and then just played around and got it lined up. And I'm very pleased with the results. As you can see, this piping here is nicely lined up, as is that. In plan form, it looks good, even spaced on a slight little lip on either side. And then the area around the front prow all seems to line up as well. There's a little bit of cleanup left to do, so I'm partway through filling a little bit of a gap under here. And talking about gaps under here, you can see that I've also got a nice tight fit there. And I've seen a number of these Triaros, including the Forge World Studio model, where there's a gap that you could definitely sneak a train of nanobots through. So I'm pleased with the result I've got here, and that's the approach that I took. A couple of other tips just on the general fit of this model. I found I had to do quite a lot of sanding down this side and then this side to level it up, and also just pulling the tracks because it was a bit splayed out. So I did that. Then let's bring in some more pieces now. So we've got the outer track unit and the inner track unit for the, oh gosh, what would that be? The right hand side, and then the same here for the left hand side. In terms of getting the fit here, I did need to do a bit of heat bending. Both the inners and the outers were slightly bowed this way, so a bit like that. So I had to heat them and just take that bend out, so they're more like that. And they're pretty nice and straight now. And they certainly fit well onto the hull, or onto the, the upper and lower hull, like so. There's a bit of wiggle left in there, that's fine. Quite happy to have a bit of space to play with. Interestingly, when we go back and look at the rear where I took the material out, and if I line that up, you see that notch there at the front. Got a nice flush fit here with the detailing. We can see we ended up with a bit of a gap there. Not quite as big a gap as the material I took away, so I did need to take material away, but obviously it took away more than I needed to. That's okay though, because I can fill that. I mean, I think given that it's going to have its little choo-choo cover here, you might not even bother to do that. But on the other side, when I get the same alignment on the detail here, you can see there is less of a gap. And that just shows the potential trickiness with trying to get these kits to fit well. But, I'm really happy with the fit, and, oops, I can just hold it together. The panel gaps and the alignment around the front is really good. Well, there's no panel gaps and the alignment is really smart. So dead pleased with that. So all that remains to do now is to stick those on. The side units I won't stick on because whoever gets to paint this You leave those off, makes painting that easier, and stick them on at the end, depending on what they want to do. There's this rear plate here with a couple of cogs of doom, and I can only test fit this, but that will go a little bit of scrunching. There we go. That will go there like so. And you get one of the characteristic features of this model, these two crazy cogs at the back. Whoops. Though I can't try to turn them at the moment. I think I'll probably stick them in place. But those will go there. And then the only other thing in terms of main components is what I keep calling a choo-choo cover. I'll take that away. I did a little bit of heat bending on this lip here. I just bent it up a little bit. You can see that, and that was just to get a flush fit on the underside hull, just a little bit. I also needed to heat this up, the choo-choo cover, and bend it in a bit because it was kind of like that, so it needed to come in like that, like so. But essentially this build is done, and I just need to stick some parts together, and then finally attach the fine details, so the Volkite Sentinels, more the bolt cannon, flare shield projectors, you name it, and then it is done. And after that, well, I think, yeah, the project's over then, and I might just do a final quick video of the model. So I've already reviewed the rules on the Triaros. I might do as a little comparison against the Karaknos assault tank as well, which is based off the same chassis. So that'll be interesting to put the two side by side. So I hope you found that an interesting and informative video. I guess a key takeaway here is you don't necessarily have to follow the instructions with a resin kit in terms of the sequence it shows you, because it's not always necessarily the best way to put the model together to achieve the optimum fit and finish. And the other thought to take from that is when you get a model is to get all the parts ready and then spend some time test fitting them. Don't rush into building it. If you're looking to get a really bob-on perfect finish, just spend a bit of time messing around, fitting it, and you'll probably just work out your own best ways of doing things through that process as well. As always, I'd like to hear your thoughts and observations in the comments section. Have you got any examples of Forge World kits where you've assembled them in a different sequence to what the instructions showed to make the build process easier or get a better finish at the end? As always, I'll be very interested to hear. But other than that, I'd just like to say thank you very much for watching. I'll speak to you next time, and goodbye.